Welcome to the video on presentation of data. So continuous data must be sorted by ranges, and for your IB test, it'll be given as inequalities without gaps. So you could have from 5 to 10 pounds, 10 pounds to 15 pounds, and so on. So here we have a frequency distribution table. So your first column would be your data range. So here we have age, so it's from 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and so on. And then we have our frequency. So your frequency table doesn't have to have all of these columns. It could just have these first two. So here it says there's 2 people who were 0 to 10. There are 3 people who were 30 to 40. So this is the number of occurrences. Our cumulative frequency is the sum of the current frequency and everything before. So this is 2, and then 2 plus 10 is 12, and then 12 plus 4 more is 16. 16 plus 3 more is 19. 19 plus 1 more is 20. So that's where your cumulative frequency comes from. Your percent cumulative frequency is your cumulative frequency divided by the total number and multiplied by 100. So your total number is 20. So for this first one, your cumulative frequency is 2. So you have 2 out of 20, which is 0.1, which you'd multiply by 100 to get 10%. So the second one would be the 12 out of 20 times 100. And then with your percent cumulative frequency, it should always end in 100% because at that point you have 100% of your data values. For relative frequency, it's the frequency divided by the total. So this would be 2 over 20, 10 over 20, 4 over 20, 3 over 20, and 1 over 20. So that's how you would find your relative frequency. So here we have histograms. A histogram is a graph that uses bars to visually depict a frequency distribution. So up here we have our frequency distribution, and we're going to create a histogram from it. So on the bottom we'll have age, and we'll break it into our different bins. So we have 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and 40 to 50. And then on our y-axis, we'll have our frequency. So our highest frequency is 10. So we'll label this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we can even put an 11th. So our 0 to 10, the frequency is 2. So we would draw a bar up to 2. For 10 to 20, it's 10. So we would go all the way up to 10. And then we have 4. And then 30 to 40, we have 3. And 40 to 50, we have 1. So this is how you would draw a histogram. And if our frequency table had a title, we'd want to put our title here too. So we'd just say age of people because we don't really know what it's referring to. So that's a histogram. For cumulative frequency graphs, you create a graph of the cumulative frequency using points and a line. And from this graph, you can find your median, quartiles, percentiles, range, and IQR. So for our cumulative frequency graph, on the bottom we'll have our ages. So there's 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And this is the age. And then we'll have our cumulative frequency on our y-axis. And that needs to go up to 20 because there's a total of 20. So you always need to make sure to label your x and y axes. And then we'll have our title. So 0 to 10, we have 2. So by the time we get to 10, we're at 2. 10 to 20, our cumulative frequency is 12 because there's 10 more. 20 to 30, we get to 16. By 40, we're at 19. And 50, we're at 20. So your graph would look something like this. because you'd connect all the dots. So now we can find our median. Our median will be halfway through our frequency. So when we're at 50%, which is 10, when our cumulative frequency is 10. So it hits 10 between 10 and 20. So our median would be approximately, you could say something like 17 or 18. Our quartile, our first quartile, will be when it's 25%. So 25% of 20 is 5, which would be a little bit after 10. So we could say like 12 or 13. So that's Q1. Q3 will be at 75%, which would be at 15, which is right before 20. The graph's a little bit off. So this would be about 19. We could find any percentile by taking 20 times your percent over 100 to figure out where that percentile would be. So if we wanted to know the 78th percentile, for example, that would be 20 times 78 over 100, which equals 15.6. So you would look for 15.6 over here and then see where that falls on the age. Your range would be from the minimum to the maximum. So your range would be 50 minus 0. So your range is 50 years. And then your IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So that would be 19 minus 12, which equals 7. So that's how you would use these graphs to find that information. Next, we'll learn how to create a box and whisker diagram. It's also just called simply a box diagram. So to do this, you need to find the minimum, maximum, median, Q1, and Q3. So if you had a bunch of data values, your minimum is obviously the lowest, and your maximum is the highest. If you find the middle value between those, it'll be your median. And then your Q1, your first quartile, is the median of the minimum and the median. So you'd find the middle point between your median and minimum, and that'd be Q1. And then you'll do that same thing for Q3, except it'll be the middle of the median and the maximum. From that, you would draw your minimum, your maximum, your Q1, Q3, and median. And then you would create a box around this middle part. And this here is your IQR, your interquartile range. To figure out if you have an outlier, you would take 1.5 times your IQR. And if it's greater than that much above your Q3, then it would be an outlier. So this is an example of an outlier. If it's greater than 1.5 times your IQR below your Q1, then it would be an outlier. So your outliers are going to be indicated with a cross. So this would be an outlier up here. If you had an outlier down here, you would just draw a little X. And then at that point, your minimum would be all the way down here. So that's how you draw a box and whisker diagram. You can tell how your data is skewed from a box and whisker diagram. If your data is skewed to the left, it looks kind of like this. There's more data points at the right. So the distance between your median and max will be smaller than the distance between your median and minimum. If it's skewed to the right, it would be the opposite of that. This side would be larger than this side. And then if it's normal, it'll be symmetrical. So there's no skew. So it would look like this. So when comparing box and whisker diagrams, there's lots of different things you can compare. You can look at the symmetry. So this one is obviously not symmetrical. It would be skewed to the left, while your second one would be symmetrical. So this would be normal. Your first one has a median of around 90, and your second one has a median around 80. So the median of class 1 is greater than your median of the second one. For your IQR, your first one, the IQR would be about 95 minus 60, which is 35. For your second one, your IQR would be about 88 minus 72. So that would give you 16. So your IQR of 1 is greater than your IQR of your second one. Finally, your range for your first one would be from about 45 to 100. So it would be 100 minus 45, which is 55. And your range for your second one would be about 98 and 60. So 98 minus 60, which is 38. So your range of your first one is greater than your range of your second one. So those are the kind of comparisons you'd be making. So now we have our first IB practice question, which is no calculator. It says draw a histogram and cumulative frequency graph of the information for the following table. How many people have 3 pets or less? So first we'll do our histogram. Our highest frequency is 53, so we'll go up to about 60. So we'll go by tens. So this is our frequency. We'll give it a title, number of pets. And then our x-axis would be the number of pets. So there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for 0, the frequency is 53. So we go all the way up to 53. For 1, the frequency is 22. So we'll go up to 22. For 2, it's 14. For 3, it's 6. For 4, it's 4. And for 5, it's 1. So this is what your histogram would look like. Then we need to do our cumulative frequency table. So our y-axis will be our cumulative frequency. And our x-axis will be the number of pets. So our number of pets goes from 0 to 5. And our cumulative frequency is going to go up to the total of our frequency. So if we add all these up, we'll get that our total is 100. So our cumulative frequency needs to go up to 100. So our cumulative frequency will be the sum of the frequency plus everything below it. So our cumulative frequency will be 53 for this first one. The second one will be 53 plus 22, which is 75. Then we add 14 to get 89. Adding 6 gives us 95. Adding 4 gives us 99. And then we have 100. So at 0, we'll be at 53, so we'll put a point there. At 1, we're at 75. So we'll put a point there. At 2, we're at 89. For 3, we're at 95. For 4, we're at 99. And then 5 is 100. So then we'll go ahead and connect those dots. And we'll add a title. So number of pets. So now we have our histogram and our cumulative frequency graph. And then it says how many people have 3 pets or less. So we'll go to the 3. And then we go over, and that was 95. So 95 people have 3 pets or less. Our second IB practice question is no calculator. It says, at the beginning of the school year, the students take a test to see what they know. The median for the initial test was 32%, so that's the median. The lowest score was 4%. The highest score was 88%, Q3 was 48%, and the IQR was 30%. At the end of the school year, the students retook the test and scored much better. The median for the end of the year test was 68%, the lowest score was 32%, and the highest score was 100%. Q3 was 84%, and Q1 was 54%. Draw box plots to compare the results and explain any significant differences and similarities. So we'll have the test at the beginning of the year and the end. And our scale will go from 0% to 100%. So this will be our score. So we'll have 50 here in the middle, and we'll go up by tens. 30, 40. Okay, so now for the beginning of the school year, the test median was 32%. So here would be your median. We'll draw a line for the median. The lowest score was 4%, so we'll put a dot there. So that's about here, because that's our minimum. Our maximum or highest score was 88%. So we'll put a dot here. Q3 was 48%, so that's above the median. So we'll draw a line right here. And then the IQR is 30%. So the IQR equals Q3 minus Q1. We need to know Q1. So our IQR is 30%. So 30% equals Q3, which is 48%, minus Q1. So Q1 will equal 18%. So we'll draw a line there. Now we can connect our middle three lines and then draw our whiskers out to our minimum and our maximum. We can't really determine outliers because we don't know where each individual data point is. For the end of the year, the median was 68%. So we'll draw a line for that. The lowest score was 32%. We'll put a dot there because it's the minimum. The highest score was 100%. We'll put a dot there. Q3 was 84. And Q1 was 54. So we'll draw a box around our middle three lines, and then we'll draw our whiskers out to the minimums and maximums. So now we've drawn the box plots. So we just need to explain any significant differences and similarities. So some differences are, so our median is obviously higher at the end of the year than the beginning of the year. So some differences are the median, it increased. If we look at our ranges, at the beginning of the year, the range was from 4% to 88%. So it would be 88 minus 4. So our range is 84. At the end of the year, it ranged from 32 to 100. So it would be 100 minus 32, which equals 68. So the range is also different. So the median is different. The range and the range decreased. And if we look at our IQR, it went from being 30 to Q3, which was 84, minus Q1, which was 54. So it's still 30. So we could say a similarity is the IQRs. And if we wanted to add one more difference, we could say the minimum and maximums both increased. So these are our significant differences and similarities. It says some differences are the median, it increased, the range, it decreased, and the minimums and maximums both increased. A similarity is the IQRs. So that's all for that problem. So in summary, A frequency distribution table has a data range, the frequency, the cumulative frequency, the percent cumulative frequency, and the relative frequency. It doesn't have to have all of those things, but those are all potentially things that could be in the table. A histogram is a graph that uses bars to visually depict a frequency distribution. Cumulative frequency graphs are graphs of the cumulative frequency using points and a line. And finally, a box and whisker plot can be created by finding the minimum, maximum, median, Q1, Q3, and the outliers. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching.